Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about comparisons in JavaScript, and let's just simply go over, first of all, what is a comparison? Well, a comparison is when we compare a value to an expected value or to another value, just to decide whether something is as it should be and make a decision based upon the result of that. So let's start by creating some variables. So there we created a couple of variables. Now we can run a comparison using the double equals operator to run a check. So number 1 is equal to 30, true, as we would expect it to be because we've set it as 30. We can say is number 2 equal to 30, and that also returns true. Now we can also check whether the variable itself is equal to another variable, and that also returns true. Number 1 is the same as number 2, they're both 30. Now what you might notice is that we keep getting the result true. Now that's what it boils down to with comparisons, is you generally get a true or false return value, and that's how we make our decisions later. So let's try and get a false value. So let's say we're looking for something which we know isn't true. So we're saying number 1 is equal to 45. Well, we know that's not true because number 1 is 30. So we get a false value, like I said. So we get true if it's true, we get false if it doesn't match. So another comparison we can make is we can use the does not equal comparison, which is an exclamation mark followed by an equal sign. Exclamation equals means does not equal. It negates the sign. So number 1 is not equal to number 2, false, because number 1 and number 2 are the same. So negating it means we would normally get true, but because we negated it, we now have false. We can also say number 1 does not equal 45, and that will return true because it's true. Number 1 does not equal 45, so it matches and we get true as our response. Now we can also do these same checks with arrays and objects. So let's do an array example first, although things will be a little different, but you'll see why in a second. So let's start by creating an array. Let's give it some values, 1, 2, 3. Then let's create another array, R2, and we'll give it values of 1, 2, 3, the same as the first. And now you'll notice when we compare these, we're going to have something a little strange happen. We're going to compare array 1 with array 2. In fact, I didn't call it array 1, I called it array. Well, I called it R. And we compare them, and the result we get is false. Now, there's a reason for this. Basically, when you create an array or an object, you are creating an instance, a particular reference point. And when you create another array, although the values within it are the same, the array is considered to be different. It is a different point in memory storage, and that is what we are comparing. And these values within the arrays are the same, but the arrays themselves are not. That's the important thing to remember. So we can, however, check the values in the array, like I say, because they are equal. So the second value in the first array and the second value in the second array are the same. They're both 2. You see? Yeah. So that's why we get a true result here. Now the same applies for objects. So if I create a couple of objects, give that a name and we'll call it Tim, and create another one, and again we'll give it name Tim. Now, as I said before, we can compare the names. So object.name equals object2.name, and the result we get is true because the name in the first object is Tim and the name in the second object is Tim. They match. However, if we did object and try to compare it with object2, we get false because same as with arrays, we are pointing to two different places in storage. We are pointing to two different items. They cannot be directly compared. Or they can be compared, but they cannot return true. Now, what we can do, a slightly different example, just to explain something a little different. In fact, let me just clear this. So we can create a new array and give it the values 1, 2, 3, same as before. And then if we create a new array again, we'll call this one new array 2, and we make this equal to new array rather than giving it its own new value or setting it explicitly. Let's give it new array 2 equals new array. Now what this will do is create a reference to the first array instead of creating a new one. So when we go to do a comparison, if we say new array is equal to new array 2, see when we do new array 2 we get this value. New array 2 automatically has the values from new array. So when we do new array equals new array 2, we now get true because they are pointing to the same place in storage. New array 2 equals new array is just creating a reference. It's not creating a new array. It's not created a new object. And the same thing here applies with objects. I'm not going to go into it, but the same applies. So if you were to create an object, same as with the arrays, you would get the same result. Creating an object which equals another object, you would be able to say that they are equal. Anyway, so that's a quick overview of comparisons, and I mean there are more complex things to go into. I'm going to do a video shortly about conditionals, and I think comparisons will become more obvious how to use them when I do my conditionals video. But play around with comparisons if you're not already familiar with them, and just try and understand how they work. And guys, I shall see you in the next video.